vida. Alzan los ojos a verme si no estás comprometida. Quieres matar y algodón, que vives en el capullo. Te llenas de orgullo, tener a mi corazón enredado con el tuyo. Pero la verdad no sé si tienes quien te lo invite, mejor me separaré.
I am muted. Oh, hi, everybody. Oh, boy. Well, then you didn't hear me mispronounce Juan's name. So that was Juan Tejeda. To the left on stage with Max Baca of Los Tex Maniacs. We're going to talk to Juan in a moment. And we've worked with Max on a few projects, so it was really fun to see them together. And welcome, new and returning friends, to our final episode of Brave Troubadours before we break for the summer. I am your host and Executive Director of Music to Life, Liz Stookey Sunde. As many of you know, Music to Life was founded by me and my dad, Noel Paul Stookey, of the folk trio Peter, Paul, and Mary, to support the work of musician change agents in communities around the country. And working behind the scenes tonight is our amazing team. Paige Menisi, producer, with Randy Harrith, managing our marketing and comments. And joining me, I'm so excited, as MC, you're going to meet her in just a moment, is our very own Director of Programs, Verónica Pérez-Picasso. This episode of Brave Troubadours has support from the ASCAP Foundation and you, our amazing viewers who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook. And we do rely on your continued support to produce these shows. So thank you for your donations and tips. We would love to get some quick demographic information from you tonight too. So please click on the 1-minute survey link in the comments bar. And of course, if you have feedback on the show, please do get in touch via the comments box or our website. We really appreciate your help in making Brave Troubadours the best show it can be. So it's almost time for the show, but I do want to pause. The whole team and I, along with the artists, would like us to all just take a moment of silence to acknowledge and mourn the murder this week of children and teachers in the Uvalde Elementary School just outside San Antonio. Our hearts and our prayers go out to everyone in the community tonight. Thank you. Okay, so I want to invite Verónica to join me. Hello, Verónica.
Hello.
Hello. Your voice is on. We can hear you just fine. We are so happy to have you on the Music to Life team, and you have so helped bring this whole show together. So I'm just curious, sort of what makes this particular episode special to you in your role with Music to Life.
Well, this show came about as an opportunity for San Antonio and the U.S.-Mexico border musicians to share their rich musical culture and the importance of preserving their Mexican and indigenous roots for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, should we go ahead and move into our first guest?
Yes. We'll start with a look at San Antonio's treasure, Las Tesoros, and the power of their legacy. Here is the video profile.
Las Tesoros is a revival, and it tells it all, the treasures, because they are a treasure. When we look at cultural traditions and cultural legacies, music is one of the big ones. It's all over the country, it's all over the world.
Their music is rancheras, boleros, and tangos. And through this music, they talk about their lives. They talk a lot about the stories of the Mexican immigrants.
Ranchera music in the hands of Las Tesoros is really romantic music. It's that music that was coming out of Mexico, but filtered through sort of the Texas experience and the San Antonio experience. And they brought those songs to life with sort of an earthiness, which I think is very San Antonio.
They are a clear example of tradition bearers. They have brought the tradition from the past. They bring to us that history that is often forgotten. They also exemplify what can happen from the barrio, from the ground up.
And you're talking about women that came out of the projects of San Antonio, that somehow their lives intersected decades later. Their connection to this town, to this city and community was very real.
They sing about their lives, they sing about men, they sing about heartbreaks, they sing about the beauty of certain places.
For me, Las Tesoros represent great independence. They were very passionate, they had big voices, and in many ways, Las Tesoros were the embodiment of empowerment for women.
They've been around since the 40s, 50s, and 60s. They were singers at a time there was a struggle.
Las Tesoros are a treasure because of their sheer willpower and their perseverance and the great sense of humor that they retained while overcoming their struggles, not only in their professional careers, but in their personal lives.
Racism, sexism, it's a history that's important to the city of San Antonio to be able to see where these mujeres came from.
What's important is that the legacy that they bring to our community be remembered and honored.
The music of Las Tesoros does transcend generations, and I think is lasting. I mean, we've seen that these women who made music now more than 50 years ago, that they are still valued today, that there's still a message there in the music.
It teaches the young that we have a history, that we have a past, that we haven't just invented ourselves and appeared out of nowhere. And secondly, because it gives us a grounding and a foothold for the future.
Congratulations to the Tesoros. It was a pleasure, and it is a pleasure, being a part of you. And I thank you, Las Tesoros, for changing my life.
So inspiring. We have with us today Graciela Sanchez and a special guest, Blanca Rosa Rodriguez. Welcome. Graciela is the executive director of the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center, and she's worked closely with Las Tesoros de San Antonio. And Blanca Rosa is one of the surviving members of Las Tesoros de San Antonio. Graciela and Blanca Rosa, thank you so much for being here. Can you please share with us how the collaboration between Las Tesoros and the Esperanza came to be?
Well, first of all, thank you for bringing us to an audience that's broader than San Antonio, to the nation and to the world. The Esperanza is a social justice cultural arts organization now in its 35th year. And one of the principal visions behind us was to, as cultural bearers, as cultural performers, is to find and highlight the voices of women and girls and the queer community, because other institutions erased us and continue to erase us. And we were doing the history of the West Side, and both of us grew up on the West Side of San Antonio, which is the poorest part of the city. It's principally Mexican and Mexican American, but we've because of racism, we've been taught that we're the bad side of town, and it's just a bunch of poverty and violence, and we know that those are all stereotypes. We know those are all lies. So part of what we have been doing is finding the treasures of this neighborhood, and we started by searching for those treasures. And I read a story about Rita Vidaurri, and she was saying, "Do you all remember me?" So in search of Rita, I tried to do a Google search, and there was no Rita Vidaurri, or very little about it. But we finally found her as we did an homenaje to Lidia Mendoza in her 85th birthday. And then the other beautiful mujeres, Blanca Rosa, Beatriz Llamas, and Perla Tapatia, come into existence. And we have been, again, initially they were known as Las Tesoros del West Side, but now they took claim of their importance in the world, and they said, we're the Tesoros de San Antonio. So that's how we started working with them.
Thank you so much, Graciela. We want to share a short clip of the 4 Tesoros performing so everyone can see how their energy shines through.
Un gran aplauso para las Tesoros.
Voz de la guitarra mía, quiero cantar mi alegría. Yo, queridos de ti. Y arriba San Antonio.
Very heartwarming to see all of you together. Blanca Rosa, es un honor. It is such an honor to speak with you today. You and the rest of Las Tesoros have pushed the boundaries of what women were supposed to do in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Tell us how you continue to share your activism and your music with the community.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to be amongst you. And I thank Esperanza Peace and Justice. Like I've always said, if it wasn't for the Esperanza Peace and Justice, there wouldn't be any Tesoros. Is that right, Graciela?
That's true.
So I'm one of the 4 that we used to be, and very proud to say that it was 4 of us. And we had the first one that passed away, which was Perla Tapatia. She was the only female singer in the state of Texas, and probably in the United States, that could sing with a tracheotomy in her throat. She passed in 2014 of double pneumonia. And then the oldest one passed in 2019. She was 94. That was Rita Vidaurri. And now it's only 2 of us left, the baby, which is 83, Beatriz Llamas, and myself, who is 88. And I can't say it backwards. I used to say my my age backwards all the time, but I can't say I'm still 88, so I can't change it. But again, like I said, thank God that Esperanza Peace and Justice found Las Tesoros, and this is how come we continue, the 2 of us that are left, to perform at senior citizens, where the seniors go out to eat and have fun. The Mariachi Esperanza Peace and Justice takes us to perform for those seniors.
But you've performed also at museums. You've performed at
cultural. And you know what, Graciela, don't let me forget. So I'm very proud to say that we got the award, the highest award in the entertainment world in Washington, D.C., and we got it directly from, who was it, Duggett? What is this? The senator, the congressman? I don't know. We had a whole bunch of guys over there with us. But anyway, got that award, and we are very proud to have been able to receive it.
The National Endowment for the Arts Heritage Award.
Yes. Uh-huh. And of course, only Beatriz and I were the only ones left, so we were the only ones that got to go.
Wow, what a great honor. Thank you for being here. Can the 2 of you share a little bit about how the past work that all of you have done builds upon your current work?
Well, I think, again, as I mentioned, our initial research for Latina, Mexican American women who were the pioneers who sang, again, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, were hard to locate. So I think part of the work that we've done is to put them front and center, not just for the Esperanza, but for the nation and the world. And so you do a Google search and you look up Las Tesoros, you're going to find them today. And that is empowering for anybody and everybody, because, you know, West Side San Antonio history is U.S. history. The women's history is U.S. women's history. And so that's all for the greater good of this community. And also the fact that we break all the stereotypes of what they think of Mexican and Mexican Americans. Today, this week's tragedy in Uvalde, Texas is partly because of the racism of this nation towards, you know, Mexican American, Black, Asian, Arab, Native, and queer. And we have to stop that. And I think the work that they do as ambassadors for the amazing music and the history and traditions of Mexican Americans speaks to the social justice work that they do and that they haven't stopped.
That's right. Like I tell you, Graciela, that I used to tell Rita that I want to hit the last note and flop on the stage. That's the way I would go. I've asked the Lord, I don't know if he's going to mind me, but that's the way I would go.
Is this a good time to showcase some of your voice, your beautiful voice that you have to the larger?
Goodness, Graciela, you have to say you have to do. I have a better voice because I'm sitting right next to her.
You can't believe this. You can't believe this comes. What she's going to belt as an 88-year-old.
I'll try my best because this lady's woke me up to come and talk to you guys. And can you imagine at this time of the afternoon? Forget it. I haven't even had my breakfast. I always get up at 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
That is shy.
That's right. Okay. Se me sale un gallo. Excuse me. In English, un gallo. Your voice. A bad note. We'll say it that way. Okay, I'll try my best, okay? Oh, I'm going to sing. I'll try and sing a little bit of one of the boleros that I sing. Y si encontraste en mi pasado una razón para quererme o para olvidarme, pides cariño, pides ternura, si te conviene, no llames corazón lo que tú tienes. De mi pasado preguntas todo, que cómo fue. Si antes de amar debe tener fe, dar por un querer la vida misma sin morir. Eso es cariño, no lo que hay en ti. Yo para querer no necesito una razón. Me sobra mucho, pero mucho corazón. Amén. That's it.
Muchas gracias. What a wonderful surprise. Thank you so much, Blanca Rosa.
Thank you.
All right. And just to highlight, I'd like to share this video clip of the Esperanza Center's work with the next generation of musicians. Thank you.
Voz de la guitarra mía, al despertar la mañana, quiero cantar mi alegría a esta tierra tejana. Yo le canto a las misiones y a mi catedral hermosa, al lindo paseo del río, orgullo de mis paisanos. Mi San Antonio. digan que estoy dormida y que me traigan aquí.
Que digan que estoy dormida y que me traigan aquí. Mi San Antonio querido, si muero lejos de ti.
Thanks again for being here. We're grateful for your service and contribution to the San Antonio community. It's been an honor to see you. Thanks again, Blanca and Graciela. Gracias.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again for helping us connect with them, Veronica. I'm going to now encourage our audience to please take this opportunity to express your appreciation by giving what you can and clicking on the tip jar or the donation link in the comments box, pointing your camera at the QR code in the corner. We thank you for your support of these torch-bearing artists. So, what is next for us, Veronica?
Let's meet Juan Tejeda.
How you doing?
So good to have you here. Hello. I'm going to let you take it away. By the way, see the translated lyrics of the song that Juan's about to perform in the comment section. Gracias.
Hello, my name is Juan Tejeda, and I'm a retired professor of music and Mexican-American studies here in Yanaguana, the indigenous name of what is now known as San Antonio, Texas. I'm a writer, a musician, an activist, and a publisher, and I want to begin this little segment with a little song that's called La Tierra es como mi madre. La tierra es como mi madre, por eso la quiero yo. La riego cuando tiene sed, con agua y con mi sudor. Le canto desde la selva, en donde habita el jaguar, hasta la Sierra del Águila, hasta la playa que besa al mar. América es continente y no un solo país, porque el indígena la sembró y la une toda con su raíz.
Muchas gracias, Juan, and welcome. Can you share some background of the song?
Yes, you know, that song, I think we first learned it from a band from California called Flor del Pueblo back in the mid-70s when I was, and we were students at the University of Texas in Austin, undergraduate students, and the Chicano movement was still in full bloom, and the what we called the Chicano Cultural Renaissance. And we began working with different organizations there and formed the Conjunto Aztlán, my band there. And we played this song. It's in Spanish, but it talks about our cultural identity as Chicanos and as indigenous people, first and foremost. and the special relationship we have to the land, to our Mother Earth. And this was sort of the beginning in a lot of ways for me and our brothers and sisters in the movement there, and our awakening consciousness and our cultural identity as Chicanos, as part of the Chicano movement, and also as cultural workers for social and environmental justice. And this special relationship that we have with our Mother Earth, this tie, which is our roots, right? And ties to this land is very important in the environmental justice movement, and how we have become and continue to be protectors of our Mother Earth and our sacred waters and the air. And this, as we know, is a very existential crisis that we're living through now, almost 50 years later. But we've been singing these songs for almost 50 years now.
Yeah, and it's still relevant. It's such a beautiful and poetic song. It's very beautiful, but very relevant till today. Well, I want to jump right into your work with the Tejano Conjunto Festival in San Antonio. You've been organizing the festival over 40 years. Congratulations, felicidades. Wow. First, let's make sure everyone understands what conjunto music is. And then can you tell us what are the trends you're currently seeing in the Tejano and conjunto music?
Well, conjunto in Spanish just means ensemble, but here in South Texas, in San Antonio, and throughout, it's come to be known as a very special American original ensemble and style of music that we as Tejanos or Mexicans in Texas created and gave to the world. It's an American original ensemble and style of music that utilizes the button accordion as its main instrument. You saw a segment at the top of this show. That's my main instrument, the button accordion, which came from the German and other European settlers in the late 1800s. We Mexicans living here in the early 1900s adopted the button accordion. And once we combined it with the Spanish-Mexican bajo sexto guitar, that was the beginning of a new American original ensemble. And we've integrated a lot of other rhythms and styles. You know, the polka is a favorite dance rhythm still, you know, almost over 100 years later. We've added our own special flavor to it, but we've added other rhythms, being here within the United States and being a border music that transcends borders. We've integrated the Afro-Cuban bolero, for instance, and the Colombian cumbia, which is also Afro-oriented, the rhythms. And so the polkas from the Europeans and the accordion tradition, and the cumbia from the Afro Caribbean influence are the two popular dance forms. So we began, the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center began the Tejano Conjunto Festival about 41 years ago. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary. We had to postpone it and cancel it for 1 year in 2020 due to the pandemic. But this year we were back live, and we just finished it last week. So celebrating button accordion conjunto Tejano music for over 40 years now.
Oh, great. Well, let's see a video from the 2017 Tejano Conjunto Festival so people can see a little bit about the story. Okay.
Every one of these festivals has young people. I mean, not only do you have young groups now on stage, kids that weren't even born when conjunto music was hitting in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, but that they've grown up with the tradición and with the cultura and the música, you know, and so now they're doing it themselves. It's always families out here having fun, juntándose, bailando, enseñando la música, you know. That's what I love about it, and I think that as long as it continues to represent, you're going to keep seeing new generations, and yet they still look up to the maestros like Flaco, like my dad, like Santiago. You know, it's a beautiful thing to see.
2013, a friend of mine suggested that why don't you start a conjunto at the high school? You have all that background and knowledge, why don't you share it with your students? And so I started recruiting, and I truly enjoy being the director of the Conjunto Cardenales. And of course, I am also the director of the Southside High School Mariachi. We are the only conjunto in San Antonio and Bexar County. So what does conjunto music mean to my students? I ask them, why do you continue to enjoy this music? It's part of my culture. It's what I want to do. I love the music. And it's because I opened the doors of opportunity. I provided an additional opportunity for these students to excel in something they never would have dreamed they could be part of.
We're about 5 generations, en otras palabras, ¿verdad? Pero, fui criado en la música, ¿verdad? Y es todo lo que vi durante toda mi vida. Y pues, no me quedó otra más que seguir adelante, ¿verdad? Y pues aquí en el Rosedale Park, cada año, como digo, es el conjunto festival, cada año estamos aquí, ¿verdad? Mr. Juan Tejeda, muy lindo, ha hecho muy buen trabajo, y de que siga lo que es la música de conjunto, ¿verdad? Tejano. Porque si no fuera por ustedes, no fuéramos nadie, ¿verdad? Es algo muy hermoso, ¿verdad? Porque pues las fans, ¿verdad? Las sonrisas y cómo lo reciben, pues sí, es algo muy bonito, porque sí, siempre lo voy a decir hasta el día que yo muera.
Gano dinero, soy feliz con mi volante, no soy el gringo.
Wow. Again, felicidades on this amazing milestone, Juan. As we jump into the next video, can you tell us a little bit about the song Desafinada and your collaboration with Conjunto Aztlán? I know you've been with them for quite a while. Can you talk about this piece in the context of your organizing and your activism?
Well, the Conjunto Aztlán was the band that we began back in the mid-70s when we were students at the University of Texas in Austin. And the Chicano movement, as I mentioned, was in its kind of heyday, the civil rights movement. So the Conjunto Aztlán was born of the Chicano movement, and we have been a Conjunto del Movimiento Chicano for about 45, 46 years now. And we still continue to play. Our first CD was all social activist and protest music from the Chicano movement. We have a CD that produced that were all original love songs. We've always seen music as being part of the movement, right? And that we had to present the problems of our people, but also to propose solutions. And we've always seen music as healing, healing our people and healing our barrios. And especially right now, for instance, with this tragedy that has occurred in Uvalde, Texas, where so many of our young brown children were killed. This song is an original song by my compadre Jose Flores Peregrino called Desafinada, which means out of tune. And he talks about his guitar and his bajo sexto being out of tune as a metaphor for this world, for this society that is out of tune, and that it's not in harmony, and that there are injustices that people around the world feel, and war, as we see in Ukraine, and that children are being killed. And they were killed here in Uvalde this couple of days ago with these weapons that shouldn't even be in the hands of people because they're weapons of war. So in a sense, this is a war protest song and a song for peace at the same time.
Thank you, Juan. Let's listen now. You can see the translated lyrics of the song in the comment section. Thanks.
Aunque se oiga desafinada tu guitarra, quiero que le hagas caso a mi canción. Píntale con tus palabras los murales en las paredes de tu corazón. Si no te vas a sentir
por lo que vas a cantar, nunca se van a sentir. No se van a enojar por lo que vas a decir, nunca se van a enojar. Ay, 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 es verdad. Por eso conquístalos con cantos, canta los cuatro vientos, que dejen las primaveras en paz. Que brota la armonía, el pensamiento libre, que dejen las primaveras en paz. Bombas explotan ciegas, matan los inocentes, niños que apenas dicen mamá. Ay, ay, ay. Por eso, aunque se oiga desafinada tu guitarra, quiero que le hagan caso a mi canción. Darles con sus palabras las verdades que no podrán borrar ni con razón, si no se van a sentir por lo que vas a cantar, nunca se van a sentir. Si no se van a enojar por lo que vas a decir, nunca se van a enojar. Ay, 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 es verdad.
Ay, 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 es verdad. You know, that those lines of the chorus that says that, you know, that's why we should conquer them with songs and sing to the four winds, that they should leave the springtimes in peace. And says, because bombs explode blindly, killing the innocents, children who can barely say mama. Ay, ay, ay. It's the truth.
Yes, such a moving, and I apologize, I got disconnected for a minute. Such a moving song. Thank you so much. This is wonderful, Juan. As we head into our final artist, Nicolas Valdez, which I know you know very well, can you reflect briefly on your understanding of culture and the bridge between the old and new?
Well, I think this is a perfect segue into Nicolas Valdez, because I think that I represent the older generation, and Nicolas Valdez represents the newer generation of conjunto musicians and social activists. And I am proud to say that you know, I was the director of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center for 18 years, from 1980 to 1998. And we started the Tejano Conjunto Festival. And we started button accordion and bajo sexto classes there in order to preserve and pass on the conjunto music tradition to the future generations. And Nicolas Valdez began learning accordion from Valerio Longoria when I think he was 9 years old. And that was, well, maybe, you know, 30, 35 years ago, probably. Nicolas will tell you. And many of our students have gone on to have important professional careers in music, and carrying on, I think, the important legacy of not only the conjunto tradition, but of being social activists and dealing with those problems that plague our community, such as poverty and racism and sexism and segregation and lack of educational equality, and on and on. And unfortunately, you know, we have been singing, you know, these same songs for almost 50 years, and they're still relevant. So we hope to get to a point where they won't be relevant anymore, and that there will, in fact, be a true justice for all. So we're very proud of Nicolas, and I think that you will see with his music how the tradition of conjunto music continues through their song, their music, and continuing that dynamic hybrid ensemble that conjunto music is, and our bands that combines, not only traditional, polkas and waltzes from Europe, but huapangos, indigenous huapangos from Mexico, Spanish language, bilingual language, dealing with also Afro-Caribbean music. That's an important part of the music, and blues and jazz and country and salsa and so forth, reggae. So we're this world music, really. And I think that's important, because little by little, the world is beginning to open up to what our music is and represents, not only for our people, but for all the world, which is a unifying force, because we include the music of all of these world cultures within our music, and give them something new.
Yes, absolutely. Bueno, muchas gracias, Juan. We really appreciate those inspiring words, and I wish you the best. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Igual a ustedes. Oh.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Oh, I feel like I could spend so much more time with every single person we've had on today. And we're actually not running over time. We're doing just fine. So we're going to continue on. And I know just echoing what Juan is saying, you're going to really enjoy this final artist.
Absolutely. Yes. Nicolas Valdez is an incredibly talented and visionary next generation artist. He can't be here with us in person, but he shares this opening video created just for us.
Hi, my name is Nicolas Valdez. Thank you for having me on this episode of Brave Troubadours. Just to give a little background, I started playing traditional conjunto accordion when I was 9 years old through the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center's Chicano music program. I started doing theater when I was 13 through the Guadalupe's resident youth theater company, Grupo Animo. And I continue to work as a facilitator for the summer theater program, and have been for the past several years. So my relationship with the Guadalupe goes way back. I like to consider myself sort of a product of their programming. Over the years, I was able to connect with other artists and collaborate, being part of artistic collectives, which we engaged audiences in themes around identity and border issues, and our experiences as Mexican Americans. The video that you just watched was entitled Yanaguana. It's a poem that we filmed in various locations around San Antonio. I've written some poetry, but I really consider myself a storyteller. And through theater making, I created a show called Conjunto Blues, and you'll see some clips of that. That was about my experiences growing up about conjunto music, but largely about how conjunto music really tells the experience of the Mexican-American working class in the 20th century. There are so many stories in our experience as Mexican Americans in our history in South Texas that we're just barely beginning to scratch the surface of. And so I feel like it's part of my job is to share those experiences and to bring some attention to what has largely been a marginalized experience. And I think giving the opportunity for folks to see themselves reflected in popular media through film and through theater work. You'll see a few clips of Los Nahuatlatos, which is a band I've been a part of for the past 10 years. As well as some excerpts from Conjunto Blues. So enjoy the clips. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicolas. And of course, we're actually going to see what he was referencing as well, which is his poem, just as a great way to introduce his creative and community work. Which he wrote this poem around the sacred waters, to kind of commemorate the sacred waters of San Antonio.
Yeah. So native people of San Antonio named the region Yanaguana for its abundance of fresh water. And this poem reflects on the contrasting views of San Antonio as a tourist town and the rich history of the surrounding Mexican American communities in the south and west side of San Antonio, who often are forgotten.
Yanawana. En un tiempo estas tierras fueron nombradas Yanawana, the land of waters. And the people of this land have always held these waters sacred, from native indigenas to Spanish settlers who built in stone with religious fervor. Generations have lived upon the river's edge. Ay, por la orilla del río han crecido generaciones de comunidades que hasta ahorita se encuentran en sus hogares. Along her banks in the barrios of the south and west sides, huddled masses still cling there, descendants of those who struggled to carve a life for themselves from the unforgiving bedrock of our tumultuous history. Descendants of those whose blood remains stained in the soil and in the pages and the bricks and the pavement. This city, long before it was known as San Antonio de Padua, has always been dependent upon the people who love and suffer along her creeks and springs and tributaries. Our grandparents' childhood memories took place there when the waters still offered refuge and sustenance. And though some recent attempts have been made to restore her natural flow and fauna, for as long as I can remember, her waters have been neglected, and they're integral part of this city's culture all but forgotten, lost to the party downtown, where tourists gather on river barges, smile and wave at the fairy tale history that keeps the city alive, never bothering to stop and listen to the unsung heroes whose bones rattle beneath the Alamo. We thrive on them. In fact, are dependent as we serve with feigned smiles and forced compassion all along the river walk that is the biggest illusion this city offers. Our city, nuestra ciudad, Yanawana. Meanwhile, on the west side, a junkie cleans his needles in the rank and fetid waters. Waters that once sustained us. Waters that once provided. Waters that cleansed and nourished. Aguas sagradas. Yanawana. The veins of water that course through this city reflect our own history. Each precious drop a life in the long flow of creation, and water is the prayer that feeds our roots. Let us reclaim this city and offer ourselves to its fullest potential in the name of our fathers, our mothers, and our own divine and holy spirits. Meshikatiawi. Amen.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Nicolas. Nicolas is also a talented playwright, preserving the cultural traditions we've actually been talking about throughout the show.
Yes, and his one-man show, Conjunto Blues, is an exploration of the social and historical conditions that led to conjunto music becoming an expression of cultural resistance and liberation. Here's a trailer of the show.
It was the secret fantasy of every abuelito living in or around San Antonio for his grandson to strap on an accordion and play a pinche polka. Más chugote que la chingada, pues órale. Quiero que me beses ni besarte, ni mirarme, ni siquiera oír tu voz, porque supe que tenías otro amante, y en Laredo ya tenías otros dos. Te gusta mucho el baile y bailas a compás, te vas hasta Laredo y quieres más y más. Y te gusta mucho el baile y bailas a compás, te vas hasta Laredo y quieres más y más.
It's that constant struggle between innovation and preservation that keeps culture evolving. Sometimes stumbling, but never ceasing to move forward. Adelante, siempre adelante.
Tus manitas no te las puedo quitar. Hay momentos que pareces el demonio cuando mueves la cintura para bailar. So, a new sound began to emerge. Conjunto music. And conjunto music became the soundtrack to the Mexican-American experience.
You have a gift. Don't waste it. Ever. Begin it. And you keep practicing. Because someday, you're going to have to play for my funeral. And I don't want you to mess up.
Veronica, I just want to say this man is a real force. I mean, he is such an artist on all of these different levels. I'm just blown away.
Like he mentioned, like Juan mentioned, and also Nicolas, he's a product of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, not only through the music component, but also through theater when he performed with the Grupo Animo group. So,
right.
Such amazing.
I got to see that. I've got to see that. Let's hope that there's a chance for me to see.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, before we hear Nicolas's closing remarks, let's see a video clip of his band Los Nahuatlatos performing Jamás Inquieto. And this group is a synthesis of traditional Latino styles from conjunto to reggae, Chicano soul to ska and cumbia. This song is a call to action to save the earth. And you can see the translated lyrics in the comments section. So let's see the video.
Lástima me da cuando veo las noticias. Me agüito tanto y el dolor. Ver que el mundo sigue sufriendo. Pero nada va a cambiar si nos quedamos en el sofá. Por el amor a la madre tierra, Pachamama y Nancy, hay que romper estas falsas fronteras. Lleva ya, ya. Por el amor a la madre tierra, Pachamama y Nancy, hay que creer en un mundo sin guerra. Lleva ya, ya. Rise up, people, here is your chance. Lift up your hearts, not just your hands. Look at the choices they have given us. Jamás inquietos, preciseñar. El amor a la madre tierra, Pachamama y Nancy, hay que romper estas falsas fronteras. Yemaya, el amor a
I hope you enjoyed those clips. That was Los Nahuatlatos performing at the Muertitos Fest. Los Nahuatlatos, we like to create what we call Chicano Roots Fusion, which is an amalgamation of the traditional sounds that we grew up with and all the contemporary things that we enjoyed listening to. You can go to losnahuatlatos.com for more information about the band. And also you can visit conjuntoblues.com to find more information about the show. I wanted to comment a little bit about this idea about, being an agent of change. I feel like as artists, we have a responsibility to ask important questions. And I don't know that we can see the direct effects of what we do immediately, right? But our goal is to try to provoke dialogue, to ask difficult questions. And I continue to do workshops around conjunto music. But conjunto music, is really just the cover to talk about the Mexican-American experience, right? There's so much involved in that experience when it comes to, the politics of migrant work, the marginalization of our communities, the fact that we're not taught our own history in schools, right? And so that's where I think this work is really focused in, and where it has the most impact, right? Is being able to create these conversations with real people, with real community, and give them the opportunity to share their own stories and experiences, and give them that sense of validation. And I think ultimately, we're all looking for that, right? To see ourselves reflected in the things that we watch, and that's my goal as an artist, and that's how I try to affect change in the world. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for sharing your gifts. Thanks to all of these artists for sharing their gifts. And Veronica, again, I can't thank you enough for bringing us all together. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for this platform. Liz says it's so much, but I'll add my encouragement to here also. Don't forget to tip the artists on the show today. It's our pleasure to bring them to you. And Music to Life is helping to support their cultural heritage and community work every day. So please take your time to tip the artists. Thank you.
Thank you. And so the donation link is here on screen. You can scan it with your phone. There's also a link in the comments box. This is just it really encourages you to show your appreciation for this this inspiring show of talent and sort of community dedication. It's been very heartwarming. And I think, Juan everybody is sort of acknowledging what's happened this week. And I am very heartwarmed by the life that can continue on in the face of such a horrific tragedy. So I encourage everyone to please stay in touch. We've got so much exciting programming coming your way from Music to Life. Join our email list, spread the word about our work by liking us on social media. We do take a break for the summer from Brave Troubadours, but we will see you in September, and we've got some amazing stuff coming up then.
Yes, highlights for our third Brave Troubadour season include partnerships with Advancing Indigenous Performance program and Decipher. It's a young artist collective from Detroit. And we're also looking at themed shows that include health equity and music in the military.
Yeah. So have a great summer, everyone. Be safe and healthy out there. We'll see you next time. And we're going to pull in. Can we have everybody from backstage just for a final wave? Oh, you guys, so wonderful to be with you tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.